The Atlanta Falcons have interviewed or have scheduled interviews with 13 candidates, some twice, including Bill Belichick, Jim Harbaugh. But the news yesterday was that Belichick to the Falcons is actually, quote unquote, losing momentum. So, Keyshawn, are you surprised Bill doesn't yet have a job?
Well, you are losing count. You said 13. You lost one. It's 14 with Vrabel going in to get interviewed. So you missed by one, Skip.
One up on me.
All
right.
You know, the hiring cycle really just started. It just started. After the divisional playoff games, the in-person interviews have just started to take place. When you look at the coaching hires so far, there's two guys. One was an interim coach at Oakland or Las Vegas at AP, and Antonio Pierce, and the other was Gerard Mayo. They already in. They already there. Minority candidates, you don't have to even go through the whole process because here it is. So now when you look at the other jobs that are becoming available or are available, for instance, you're talking about Seattle, the Chargers, the Falcons, Commanders, Panthers, and Titans. So far, the Falcons are the only one that we know that Bill Belichick has interviewed with twice. You know, for all we know, he may have told them, keep interviewing people. We'll figure it out. He may have told the Chargers or the Commanders, I'm not interested. Because when you got these old Wizards coaches like this, they looking for something specific. Whatever that is, whether it's a quarterback, a defensive front, a nice wide receiving core, they're looking for something that they can go, I'm going to hitch my wagon to that because I think I can do something. Just because a job is available and he's a candidate that's out there amongst everybody else doesn't mean that he's telling people, I want this job and I can't get it. He may simply be telling the Chargers, he may have already told the Chargers, I'm not interested in moving to the West Coast. We don't know. So I would be shocked if he didn't get hired if he wanted a job this cycle. I just would be shocked. There's no way, Skip, in your mind, as much as you disagree with me about who did what in New England and who was the reason they won and all, you can't tell me a guy that's been to 9 Super Bowls and won 6, and I don't give a damn who was the quarterback, that he's available to be a head coach and nobody wants to hire him? Or have a conversation with him?
Extremely difficult to get along with, right? That's what was proven in New England. Very difficult to get along with.
All great coaches are difficult to get along with.
Well,
all great coaches
wasn't easy.
All great coaches are. Great ones are hard to get along with for front office people.
I ain't heard nothing about Andy Reid being hard to get along with.
And Richard, was Pete Carroll hard to get along with?
Not that I know of. Maybe it was different with the execs.
I'm saying front office, not players. Front office. Because they want things done a certain way. They want it done a certain way.
What I'll say, Skip, is at the time Bill Belichick got hired by the New England Patriots, he was the desired style of coaching at the time. The Bill Parcells kind of mode, the hard, my way or the highway. Let's be strict disciplinarian. Let's make sure these guys are in line, kind of militant. It's different. Now, you fast forward 20 years, 20, 30 years, and it's a different age. It's a different time in the world. It's a different way things are run. It's a different kind of coaching style that's desirable right now. You talk about an analog coach being pushed into a digital age. Are these teams willing to, the people that are interviewing him, these GMs or these presidents who would interview Bill Belichick, willing to get fired or demoted once he's the coach? Because he takes full control of the organization. He's the president, the CEO, the GM, the coach, and everything. And I don't know many people that are willing to hire somebody and fire themselves in the process. And I think maybe that's the conversation that's happening in Atlanta, like, hey, Rich McKay, I know you got a job, but, hey, you're not going to be calling these shots once I'm in the building. I want to be in control of when we do things, how we do things, and everything. And I don't think every organization is willing to do that. The New England Patriots were in a position to give him that power once they fired Pete Carroll and hired him. I don't think many teams are willing to do that. So I just think it's just not the right fit for everybody unless he's just going to say, I want to coach.
Yeah. So, Keyshawn.
Yes, sir.
The point is, if this is the greatest coach ever, as you say, then once he hits the market...
I don't just say it, his quarterback said it. I ain't the only one say it.
Well, okay. All right. You know how I feel about that, but that's another issue. But the point is, it's Bill Belichick, and he's been out there for a while now because their season ended before the playoffs, and it is somewhat surprising that nobody has jumped at that because there are lots of jobs available, but we've never before seen so many big-name candidates on the market. Jim Harbaugh is still out there. Pete Carroll is still out. These are all-time great coaches, along with Bill, who are still out there. And it is surprising to me, you say we're early in the cycle, but usually the dominoes just start falling immediately, and it goes boom, 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 boom. You saw it just happen in college football. As soon as Coach Saban said, no, I'm out, the dominoes just went boom, 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 boom over the next, 48 hours, and everybody had the musical chairs had stopped, and they all had their new jobs, right?
Yeah, but
that's not happening here.
The college cycle, hiring cycle is different than the pros, Skip. There's also rules in place where you have to do certain things before you can even get to the end point. Now you say, well, no one's kicking down the door. Does Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, Jim Harbaugh, and Vrabel, let's just use those four as example. Yeah. Do they really want to coach in Carolina? Do they really want to coach the Carolina Panthers?
No.
Probably not. Probably not. Sure. So when you look at it, you have to make sure everything is correct and right. Richard talked about general managers, for instance. Out of all the available jobs that's available or were available, there's only one team that retained their general manager, or two teams that retained their general manager. The Seattle Seahawks in Snyder and the Tennessee Titans in Ron Carthon. Everybody else is looking for general managers. Atlanta Falcons are looking for a general manager. Rich McKay is part of the hiring process, okay?
He is.
Okay, the Raiders just allegedly are getting ready to hire Telesco. Okay, so...
From the Chargers.
From the Chargers. So when you look at it, there's things that got to be put in place before these decisions are made. For all we know, and I like to say for all we know because we don't know, he's talking to Atlanta, but he's also trying to align himself, as he said before. He doesn't mind working with somebody. He doesn't care about that. He can work with anybody, as he said in New England. Trying to align himself with the right person to bring in with him to Atlanta or bring with him to the Chargers. Okay? Harbaugh, he has a job still in Michigan, but he's flirting with NFL teams. Yeah. Right. So he hasn't been hired yet. What? So does that make him a bad guy or not a bad guy, but
no,
they don't want him or something because he hadn't been hired?
I don't want him.
No, this is what I'd say, Skip. I think in this situation, the NFL hiring cycle is a little different because a lot of the coaches they want to hire usually once the season's done, once some of these coordinators get eliminated or win the Super Bowl, lose the Super Bowl, they're done, they're hired immediately. So maybe Ben Johnson has a handshake deal with one of these teams, so they're not calling and doing all this work anymore. Maybe Mike McDonald has a handshake deal with one of these teams, and they're not really doing their work anymore because they already know who their coach is going to be. Any of those guys.
Aaron Glenn might.
And as soon as they're done with this season, you're going to look up and they're going to announce it. Bang, Aaron Glenn has been hired. Mike McDonald has been hired. Ben Johnson has been hired. So those things would make sense to Keyshawn's point. Maybe those dominoes are waiting to fall for those things. But usually when a coach is available, it doesn't take this long. And so that's why I'm really speculating that there may be some dynamic that Atlanta's trying to work out with Bill and say, hey, if you're willing to accept this power dynamic, then we'll hire you as a coach. But if you're not, we got to look at these other guys and maybe go in a different direction if you're not willing to accept that.
Yeah, I mean, what is Atlanta doing? What did you say, Keyshawn? We're up to 14 interviews now, some twice.
They're dating.
Arthur Blank just trying to show his fans, we're scanning the globe, man. We're looking at any and all comers here.
Well, you want to get it right because they did not get it right. the last time. They got it right with Dan Quinn because guess what they did? They took their time, okay? But with Arthur Smith, it was like an instant hire. Oh, I know your dad. We're in corporate world together. I'm going to hire you. You're a good kid. And he hired, it was a bad hire to begin with. It was just a bad hire. So you want to kind of take your time, see it through. There's not a rush. The Chargers, we're out here in L.A. We don't hear peep. We don't hear peep, right? It's nice and quiet. They're interviewing guys. But we don't know what the real process is with them. So I don't want to make it seem like nobody wants to hire Bill Belichick. No one, he's just a fraud. Because that's the way it's coming off to me. As if the dude is just a fraud, nobody gonna hire him. No. And that's not true.
All right, but
go ahead, Skip.
Yeah. Go, Richard.
No, I don't think that's the case. I just think it's just not.
No, that's the way Skip is presenting it to me. As if Bill is like a clipboard holding guy and they won't hire him.
Mr. Pencil.
Well, Keyshawn, now that you bring it up, yeah, Coach Pencil. By the way, he got fired, I think, 2 days ago in Philadelphia, so he's on the market too. If you want that guy, you want to recycle him?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, so Keyshawn, just for the record, since Tom got kicked out the back door in New England, Bill has gone 29-38 without Tom Brady. That's post Tom in New England.
Correct.
29-38.
Correct.
And he made it to one playoff game at Buffalo. And Josh Allen played the game of his life against Bill's defense and threw 5 touchdown passes, never punted, and scored points every time he touched the football.
Correct.
And it was 47-17. So you don't think some people around the league are sitting back and thinking about what Richard presented, the case he presented, that you got the analog coach in the digital age? Well, maybe time has passed him by a little bit. Maybe he's not what he used to be. Maybe it doesn't work now.
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. And I don't, I always say this sort of stuff, Skip, because it's true. It's hard to get into these deep conversations when you know too much.
Right.
When you just, it just is, Skip. For me as an ex-player in relationships with guys, it's just hard. He's not stuck in the Stone Ages.
I appreciate that.
He's not stuck in the Stone Ages. He is so far advanced on what they're doing in football. But people just assume that because of the record post-Tom Brady. And that's not true. They had a certain philosophy on the offensive side of the ball that they liked, that they did well with, that they won 6 Super Bowls with. And then they tried to switch to the Cam Newton situation back in 2020 during COVID, and they were doing okay till Cam got COVID. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Richard, I believe they were at the top of the league in running the football, because that's what they decided to do. Cam Newton scored 13 rushing touchdowns that year, okay? They were starting to get into the RPO game or whatnot, and then it just fell apart for them.